Well, harvest is off to a pretty smooth start for many growers across the country, but will it stay that way? And then how's winter going to look? Well, Greg SOULJE'S already taking a look at all of that, and he joins us now. Greg, we walked through October earlier in the show here, the first half. How does the second half of October look like it's shaking out?
Well, really no sign of any true autumn air or autumn weather. The back end of October still featuring some sense of that weakening warm ridge of high pressure. We think by then we're finally moving into a neutral state. Temperatures in the open waters of the Central Pacific finally getting back to normal. We think there's still a weak El Nino going on. And into the northeast of New England, a little slot to some cooler air on the move. And from a moisture standpoint, very little. So yeah, if you do get delays, you'll be back at it. The only real active weather, we'll keep an eye on the western Atlantic with a couple of tropical systems enhancing rainfall here and a ribbon of active weather along the southern periphery. Some cool air from the Pacific Northwest into the northern Great Lakes and much needed moisture for the northeast of New England.
Do you see any spreading cool weather by the time we get to November?
Into November, not much to speak of, and relative to the time of year, above average temperatures from the southern plains and a much of the Corn Belt locales. The cool air begins to make its move across the northern tier of states. We're still in some semblance of a neutral, balanced state to the ocean waters and the atmosphere, and from a moisture standpoint, beginning to pick it up with some troughiness over the middle part of the country. Much needed moisture, lower Mississippi Valley, much of the Corn Belt into the eastern states. So if you're not really, ahead of the game here, there'll be probably some delays, and especially as we move on through the mid to late stretches of the month of November, with snow beginning to pick up near the Canadian border and moisture too for the northwestern reaches of the country.
Now, December, of course, winter is underway. Greg, does it feel like winter?
In some areas, that cool air begins to dislodge. We'll get a pretty good lobe of it from time to time into the northeast of New England. Temps will vary from a little above to a little below, but nothing too extreme. Big sky country into the Carolinas with still some sense of late season warmth over the southwestern reaches of the country. And the moisture, too, again, favoring the northern and eastern Corn Belt areas, the northeast of New England, down through parts of the Cotton Belt country. Meanwhile, normal moisture for the Mississippi Valley into the Pacific Northwest, back into dry weather for the southwest and southern plains. So again, the deeper into autumn and early winter we go, hopefully you're done with harvest operations.
Absolutely. What about midwinter? We get to January. Greg, how's it look?
Beginning to ramp up here. Here's a look at temperatures. Look at the range from well below average up into the southern Canadian prairie. Some warmth over the middle part of the country. On southward, it's a weak La Nina getting going here and strengthening with time. And so it goes with an active, more typical January setup of moisture Pacific Northwest, middle part of the country into the northeast and New England.
I know February's a long way off, Greg.
Yes.
We'll talk again before then, but
Obviously.
how's it look now?
Here we go with, again, this setup here. So going to be a busy one, character building. That's the early thinking here with a weak La Nina strengthening, a short-lived one, but the cold air pretty much dominant and built into the northern plains all the way down into the Rio Grande, the Gulf Coast areas into the eastern states. And when you get that range of temperatures and a jet stream pattern swinging in from the Pacific Northwest to the southern plains into the northeast of New England, tends to be a pretty active one, probably more significant moisture for the northwest, the high plains areas across much of the Corn Belt locales. It'll be character building. Make sure you're ready to go with livestock operations, certainly feed requirements as well, and plenty of wet weather with severe weather expected as well across much of the Gulf Coast area. We'll keep you up to date here in the days and weeks to come.
All right, Greg, and of course you keep folks up to date on the Feedstuffs 365 podcast twice a week. Folks should get on there and check that out. And folks, thank you for joining us this week. Be sure to catch us next time right here for This Week in Agribusiness.